Hey everyone, welcome to the Nomads podcast, episode 24. And today I have the co-founders of Alpaka. We got Ramiro in Los Angeles and Jin in Bangkok. How you guys doing?
Pretty
Great.
good. Yeah, thanks for having us there.
Awesome. Just a heads up, guys, I'm a little sick today, but the show must go on. I'm powering through. I'm actually a little jet lagged because Ramiro, like I was just telling you, I just got back from Hong Kong, from visiting LA for my first time in like almost 20 years. It was awesome, dude. How long have you been out in LA for?
Been in LA for about over 3 years now, actually. Yeah, it's been a
Three
little
years.
while.
Which
Yeah.
which neighborhood in LA do you live in?
I'm in West Hollywood now. I used to live in Beverly Hills and Santa Monica, but I think West Hollywood is like central, like it's the closest thing to everything, so
Hell yeah, you're doing the whole
yeah,
LA tour.
enjoying it.
And Jin, you're in Bangkok now. Jin, where do you live? You're do you consider yourself living in China, or are you kind of just like living the nomadic lifestyle? Where's home for you?
I would consider home to be Melbourne, but for the last 9 years or so, I've been living in Shenzhen because for work purpose, obviously.
For sure. Okay, so you guys got LA, friggin' Australia, China. You're in Bangkok right now. You guys got an office in Malaysia. I just visited your guys' factory in Shenzhen, and that kind of is where this podcast is coming from. Like, have you guys seen how well that video is doing?
Yeah,
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 yeah.
we did. Yeah,
I mean,
it's been
listen, I
incredible.
know my channel pretty well, and so just for the listeners, Alpaka invited us to their factory to do like a little tour, and I thought that it was gonna be pretty niche and get like 5 to 10,000 views, and it's cranking right now. It's got like 60,000 views. People are commenting on it like crazy. If you guys haven't seen the video, be sure to check it out. You guys were so awesome. Show me around, show me the team, the factories, how you guys make all your hardware, how you guys make all your actual bags. So from that experience, I'm like, I want to go deeper. And in this conversation, I want to talk about the story of Alpaka a little bit more and kind of talk about your factory and whatnot. But my first question is, I'm curious, Jin, who made up the name Alpaka? Was it you or Ramiro?
It was both of us, really. We
You guys
thought
came up
about some sort of
with
animal kind of thing, and
it.
I suggested so it start with A, and because Romero speaks Spanish, so I'm thinking something that's from the Latin America. So yeah, so we
Yeah,
brainstormed. It took us like one day to brainstorm the idea.
we're looking
Yes.
for something Latin American, South American. I'm not Peruvian or Bolivian or anything, but we thought alpaca made sense. You know, that name, it has a play on words, like I'll pack my bag. Basically, that's how we ended up on it. You know, pretty quick brainstorming. And then my friend did the logo. Ages ago. It's like
Yeah, we
That's
spent $500 on it.
$100. Hey,
yeah,
see, yeah, that's the whole thing. People
Mm.
always think they got to
yeah,
spend like, thousands on an agency. No, find a good friend who can do a decent graphic design job, get your logo, and focus on what's important, right?
mhm.
So okay, so you guys tag teamed the name. That's really interesting. So, you know, I want to just start off by talking about the story of Alpaka, your guys' origin story, because it was so crazy to me, like seeing the scale that you guys have hit. It's being at your warehouse and seeing how many bags that you have and like how much X-Pack fabric you guys have. And just there's a scale. You guys have grown so fast. So Ramiro, bring us through like, the origin story of Alpaka. How did you guys actually get started?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was in Melbourne. I moved to Melbourne in 2012 or something like that, and I was studying my master's degree, and that's where I met Jin. I was changing my career. You know, I used to do biotech and just did like a full 180. Wanted to do something with tech and commerce, and I think it was like the second or third semester that I met Jin. He arrived to this class like 12 weeks late or something like that, and we got him on our team. And basically, that's how it happened. We both had the idea. We wanted to do a business. We love traveling. Jin's the biggest bag nerd. So was I, but he had a massive collection. And basically, that's how the idea started. You know, it took a couple of years to get off the ground, like properly, like actually do something. But that's the very origin of things before doing anything.
Hey guys, a real quick aside, if you are listening to this episode and you are in the backpack industry as an executive or you're in marketing or you're a backpack founder, what Alpaka does so well is having complete ownership of their supply chain. And it's the number one thing I think that translates to their success. And you're going to hear through that, you're going to hear about that throughout this entire interview. But supply chain is more than just actually the fabrics. It's also, how your shipping is going, customer support, quality control of the factories, and it's a lot. And that's why we actually partnered with Nomads Nation and with Firo with Move Supply Chain. Move Supply Chain are supply chain logistical ninjas and experts. And since working with them with Firo, they've just given us a different perspective on how to own our operations and our logistics. One thing that Move Supply Chain has done with Firo that I freaking love is that they help to create a core set of KPIs that we're now implementing for our warehouse for shipping and returns and shipping times and everything. And it's just kind of changed that relationship in terms of responsibility and overall ownership of what needs to be done. And that's what working with Move Supply Chain has done for us. They've just helped us across the board. I've met them in person in Vietnam. I've worked with Lara, the founder, very closely. And if you are in the bag world or really anything that requires operations and logistics and shipping, I cannot recommend them enough. Be sure to check them out at movesupplychain.com or with the pinned comment below. Real fast, guys, we had some technical difficulties with Jin's connection, so we're bringing him back in without his video. Sorry, Jin, we can't see your handsome face, but please let's ask that question again. Then, so I want to know. You said it took around 2 years then for the first backpack to go live.
Yes, yes. We didn't have any designers in the house, and we didn't have any factories on hand. So basically, I had to travel back to China for 2 years to find a designer, a factory. So yeah, so we doing it that way, like the process. It took us, I think it took us like over 12 factories or something like that to actually get the first prototype done. Then when we first got the prototype, I think we did like 15 prototypes to actually get the final version before the Kickstarter. Then the problem came where we needed the photo studio, the production studio. And yeah, that was, I think, Romero found the actual film studio for us. And that's where, Justin came from. Yes.
So just to clarify then, so you had the idea when you guys were both in uni together. At this point in time, when you're about to launch, are you guys still in uni or had you graduated?
I quit my uni, I think, as soon as
Yeah,
met
I had
Romero.
graduated too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I quit. I fully quit. I didn't want to continue the course. It was boring and didn't have anything to do with what I wanted to do. So Romero had to stay because he needed the visa, and the course provided that for him. But for me, it was just too boring. I just couldn't find the concentration, or it's just pretty much how Steve Jobs said, there's no value in that thing he did, and things that have value, it's got nothing to do with the course, right? So yes, I decided to quit after one semester. So
Got it.
And by the time we launched that, I'm just remembering, I had graduated already maybe like a year and a half ago, so I had a full-time job, and Jin was, between China and, getting that prototype ready. So
yeah,
yeah, it took us
and
a good couple of years.
yeah, it was lucky for Romero to actually get a job, because all the tech stack that we still use, Romero is behind all that. So we had a really professional looking website before we had the product. And that actually got us to a lot of the factories, because it's, oh, you must be a big company to be able to maintain a website like that. But in actuality, we were just two of us, really. We didn't even have like Justin. Justin was just freelancer for us. Yeah.
That was pre-Shopify days too.
Yeah. Okay. So just to clarify, the roles too. So Jin, you're more on the operations side, production, logistics, customer support, and Ramiro, you're handling more the marketing and sales side. Is that sound like an even distribution?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Cool.
pretty much. Yeah.
So why did it take so long for you guys to find that first factory? I mean, I know that it can take some time, but you said, Jin, that it was you went through like 15 different factories.
12. Yeah, 15 different prototypes, because we didn't have a design either. So we didn't have a design, didn't have a factory. So the factory that we needed was able to actually design the bag for us. and draw it out and do everything for that.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's why it took so long. Yeah.
And then, so you guys put years into this. You built the site, you built the bag, you forgot the factory. How much did your first Kickstarter campaign actually netting you guys?
I think it was
Like
$87,000.
a bit more than that. It was like 92 or 93.
Yeah, but we only got, I think, 87 like from the bank.
Well,
And
minus
yeah,
the Kickstarter
yeah,
fees, yes.
yeah.
Got it.
But
Yeah.
then
So,
the real work started, because then, back then, oh man, we did so many things wrong. It's crazy. The logistics side of things was insane. We had no backer kit, no after, Kickstarter campaign backer anything. So we had to do everything manually. It was insane. It was like it was just an
so
awful like month
the
or so.
$90,000, you probably had, hundreds of orders easily, right, to get to that number. So you were just manually reaching out to customers. Hey, John, thanks for supporting our Kickstarter campaign. Can I get your address? And then just figuring it out manually on the fly, customer by customer.
Yeah, I think did we send out like a spreadsheet? I don't remember.
There was
Sending
a
out
survey
spreadsheet.
system in Kickstarter that collected all the address, but every change, everything we do, the color selection was all done manually.
So
So I did the job. So it was like, oh, Excel, I remember. And that's when I had to get my first MacBook because the laptop I used to have, the screen color, because I was traveling a lot, didn't have any desktop monitors. So I rely on my laptop to actually do all the work. And I remember before shipping, I spent like 2 weeks straight, just make sure every line of shipping was correct, the name was correct. Yeah, it was hell. It was really a torture. But you have no money. We ran out of everything, and
I,
even after Kickstarter, we ran out of money.
yeah,
So
no, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I know it well. We did it over here for Firo as well. People see the successful Kickstarter campaign. Customers, and a lot of times they assume, oh wow, they're successful now. It's all easy, and it's like the hard work only just begins at that point. Whereas where
100%.
now the complications, the customer expectations, and there's just so many things that are all woven together, and so many things that are out of your hands, and it just becomes quite an operations business at that point. And then so on that note, Jin, so where you guys launch. This is when did the Kickstarter launch? It's 2026 now. What year?
2016.
20. So we're 10 years ago, right? So
Yeah.
how then,
September.
Jin, do you guys go from single product launching on Kickstarter to where you're at now, where you're shipping thousands of products a month? How does that whole transition occur?
Um, I think for the first 4 years, oh yeah, 4 years, we rely on Kickstarter pretty much exclusively to get all the funding, and we had no money. So basically, we have no real team either back then. I think we have like 2 extra staff in China and 1 staff in Australia between Romero and Justin, and would have no office. Like our first office in China was actually in the factory itself. So we got this little tiny room of like 10 square meters that we worked out of. That took us to COVID, and COVID actually changed us. This is because we forced us from moving like solely dependent on Kickstarter into doing Shopify. And that's when all the things Romero and Justin learned during their uni year and the work experience actually helped the company because Romero know all the tech stack. And Justin was actually a website developer, and a videographer before coming to join Alpaka. So between those two, that's how we started the Shopify part. And in 2021, that's when we sort of like grew, is because we had the internal design team because we were located in the factory. So prototyping, production, everything was very fast. So that's how we managed to become nimble and sort of like to grow. Then in 2023, that's when we hit the second growth spurt. That's when we had our own ads team. That's where Kyle came in. And also because we have our own factory, right? So yeah, so between the few things that we did right, it really sort of like changed the dynamic of the business.
That's really interesting, and it kind of leads me into what I think is most interesting about you guys, obviously, you've seen our reviews on Nomads Nation. We love what you guys are doing. Oh, and by the way, on a side note, the Flow Satchel 10, I've been using it as my EDC
Nice.
for the past few days. This thing rocks. I think this is gonna do very, very well in the community. I've seen some reviews go live already. Ours should be live soon. Um, so obviously we're a big fan and you guys make just great fucking gear in general. But what I find so interesting about you guys is that ownership of your supply chain, which is why I was so excited to, see your factory. Cause, I talked to a lot of other founders in this game and no one really does what you guys do. Maybe Tom Bin, they got a factory in Seattle. Um, I don't know if they own their factory though. I mean, you guys are just doing it differently with that ownership of your supply chain. And that now is extending to your fabrics, your hardware. So, Jin, I'm curious, like, how did that come to be? How did it come to be where you guys said, you know what, let's actually bring this in-house and, take it under our wing ourselves?
Yeah. Because my background's in tech, right? So I follow Apple quite like closely. So part of the business of doing anything is really looking at how other business apply to your business. Maybe not in the same category. So I wouldn't look at other soft goods business. So I'll look at what's the other company in say tech that's similar to what we're doing. I mean, not at the same scale, maybe they're bigger. So the only thing I could have think of is Apple, right? So when you see Apple has their own CPU, their own supply chain, and how the Intel and Apple Silicon came to be. So we thought part of Apple's growth was to control supply chain. And that's something Apple did really well for many years. And that's sort of like part of the success, right? So we thought, okay, using that analogy, if we apply to our company ourselves, if we own the entire supply chain, does that make us more efficient? And then we look at that efficiency from economic point of view, like can we actually do it? And how much does it cost? So because with every business, like with outsourcing business that you do, every person that touches that business takes a bit of profit away from it. So if we own it completely ourselves, we do not need to rely on other people, and then the things that we have is actually cheaper. And that's how we thought about that kind of thing.
That's really interesting. Now, where did that ownership start? Did it start with MagLockz? Did it start with fabric? Did it start with the actual factory itself?
So MagLockz was actually the first thing we started because we tried to see what was the bottleneck
Hmm.
and sort of like the risk factor to the company. And because back then we rely on Phillock pretty much for everything, and it was really expensive because you had to pay cash up front and do all that stuff. So for us, we thought, okay, if we didn't have Phillock, does that mean the things we have on bag no longer works? And we launched a few products that didn't have Phillock. And that was when we thought, oh, if Phillock can no longer supply us, or we don't have the money to buy Phillock, then our supply chain will get constrained. And then COVID happened. Luckily, like we started development of that on MagLock stuff in 2019, end of 2019. When COVID hit, that's when we had the first MagLockz product that was alternative to Phillock.
Real fast,
And Phillock
real
couldn't.
fast, just for anybody listening who doesn't have the context. So Alpaka makes their own hardware in house, and it's branded as MagLockz. So
Yeah,
do you guys only use it for Alpaka, or do you outsource it to other companies as well?
no, we only use for Alpaka. It's an internal kind of project
Got
for us. Yeah.
Yeah,
So basically,
it was really interesting, Jin, too, because you actually visited my other office last year, and you
yeah,
brought up a good point too, where if you do that, it means that basically no, you can't have a company that is making duplicates of your gear or fakes because they can't actually access the MagLockz hardware. So that's how you can always know if an Alpaka bag is real or if it's a knockoff. Is that correct?
yes, that's correct. Because every injection molding machine is different. So when you see like even people can copy the 3D diagrams and stuff, it won't work exactly the same because to get exactly the same, you need to have the same machine, the same kind of plastic, the same speed of injection. Yeah, pretty much like you got get everything the same. And it's very hard because there's no standardization between the process. And the MagLockz is actually the thing that actually differentiates us because there's a lot of fake on the market that looks the same. to our product on Taobao and things like that, but they use generic hardware. And as soon as you see that, it's pretty much fake, right?
Now, the goal is obviously supply chain efficiency and to, keep more of the profits. But at the end of the day, I would assume like making your own hardware has got to be pretty expensive in terms of upfront costs, or was it not too bad?
We have our internal team to do it, so we're pretty good at it.
Okay.
So the cost up front is minimal because I know all the factories that do things with us, so they keep the price very low.
Hmm.
And also because we have actually taken ownership of injection molding factory. So yeah, so the cost is really low for us. Yeah.
So you started with MagLockz being built in house. It seemed to go pretty well. What was the next step then of owning the supply chain? Was that when you guys started to actually own your own factory, or?
Yes, that's correct. Factory was the second thing that we started looking at because we had a lot of issue with factories that was outsourcing, like how we outsourced stuff, and the factory was not reliable, right? The quality was inconsistent. The production timetables wasn't always clear. With our factory, we can, say tomorrow, I would change the entire production process to something new, and we can do that. And with other factory, you can't, right? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it gives you so much more control on one end, but on the other end, I can imagine Ramiro, that creates complications, or should I say, puts a little bit extra pressure on the sales side of things. Because if you're outsourcing to a factory, you don't own them, you don't have to pay their workers year round. You have your little slot, you have your 2 months that you make your bags, you take the bags, and you're good to go. But now you guys got full-time team, and you got an overhead that needs to be sort of taken care of year round. So does that sort of put a little extra pressure on the sales and marketing side of things then?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's advantages and disadvantages to both things, but I think at the end, it's still the better move to have, your own supply chain. You're the owning the vertical. It's as hard as it is, or it was, there's more advantages to it. And then yes, you have your overheads, you have to keep producing stuff, you have to keep your factory workers busy. You can't just produce something and kind of just call it a day. So you have to be moving stuff quicker as well. So yeah, I mean that's part of the reason we grew as well, because of the speed, because we can do stuff a lot faster. So we could launch things faster, we could design things faster. But then that also, you need the right strategy, because then that can create like massive inventory issues as well, right? Because then you're just producing.
Oh, for sure.
So
I mean,
yeah.
so like for my small little backpack brand Fire, like if we want to do a new production run, I got to put a deposit down with the factory. The factory then takes 2 months to get all the supplies, then maybe 6 weeks to actually sew, a couple weeks to kind of like organize everything, and then a month to 6 weeks freight to get to my warehouse in LA. So from deposit going down to being able to sell at the warehouse, I got 5 to 6 months, right? You, though, it seems like a much faster experience in comparison.
Yeah, I mean, because we also, our strategy had been, not necessarily is going to be like that forever, essentially changing, but part of it was we could ship directly to the consumer, and you had
Mhm.
the de minimis thing, and you
Yeah.
had all these things that worked in your favor. You didn't have to ship and wait, like now it's a little bit different, right? Because you gotta change your strategy.
So
But that
just to
was
clarify
that
then,
was a
Ramiro,
golden age.
just to clarify, Ramiro, are you saying then the bags would get made in Shenzhen and you would just ship them to customers from Hong Kong, I assume?
Yes, yeah, we have several
Yeah.
shipping partners, and basically, yeah, it just depends where
Yeah.
they're
We
going.
have our own warehouse in the US too. So it's 50-50 now. It used to be 100%. So now it's 50-50. Then we also have our Amazon in the US. So yeah. So, you know, global trade is no longer the same as before. So the strategy we used to have no longer applies. So then, it's a different kind of business model that we are applying later this year. But where we used to have, it gave us a good 5 years to do the things we used to do. But now it's more about hitting the marketplaces, the whole distributor, like wholesales, TikTok, and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine too, with how fast things are changing politically and just like, like whether it's tariffs or increasing prices due to oil shortages or de minimis gets taken away. It's a lot, and you constantly have to be on your feet. So I imagine an enormous part of your growth is the fact that you guys own your supply chain. It allows you to make moves a lot faster, which means that you can then react to these things that are happening quicker than other companies can. So I imagine that's quite an advantage as well. Ramiro, any thoughts on that?
Mm. Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. It does allow us to move faster and be on our feet with how things are changing. Because a year ago or a year and a half ago, things were just you didn't know where things were going to go, right? With the tariffs or like and then different countries. Would you want to change your country of production because now China is getting hammered with tariffs and all this stuff. So it does allow us, again, like everything I said before, to be more nimble than if we work with just a factory straight up.
And another big advantage I think that it gives you guys is a lot of brands are dealing with stock issues right now. Like I know that, really popular bags will be out of stock in the carry community from really popular brands, and it's just because of all the clusterfuck that's happening right now. But because you guys have that speed within your own supply chain, it allows you to be in stock, I assume, a lot better than your competitors. And therefore, when competitor bags are out of stock, consumers want bags that are in stock. So they're just kind of dripping over to you guys, and it allows you to kind of grow your customer base accordingly. Have you guys seen anything in regards to that, Jin?
That will be more of Romero's side because I actually don't take care of the actual sales platform. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ramiro.
Yeah. Basically, not exactly. Yes, there might be some brands that because of the tariffs or something, they stop producing. Um, for us, things can maintain, and they're going on an upward trend, but nothing like this brand stop selling this, and now we come in and take that piece of the pie
No, yeah, sir.
just
I
yet.
wasn't insinuating that it was necessarily a strategy. I just think in general, it's a good thing that you guys have the speed of your supply chain, so it allows you to be in stock just for all products when competitors might be struggling to actually stay in stock.
To be in stock, yes,
Yeah.
definitely. To be in stock, yes. At least in China, and like I said, also, we're changing the strategy, and we're localizing more things in the U.S., Australia, Europe, to be closer to the customer and give them a better experience as well.
Now, Jin, you mentioned before we were recording about how you're in Thailand because you're trying to meet with a distributor out there, and you also just mentioned like different, retail options and stuff. How important is that for Alpaka? Like, getting into local markets and retail. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, actually, that's Romero's job too. I'm just here because I had to come here just to meet some people, and but yeah, it's pretty much like the strategy side of sales and stuff
Got it.
is what Romero take care of. I'll just execute on it. There's a directive. There's things like that need to be done. I'm the man. I'm the guy. If you put me in a country, I will make sure that country is running right.
Yeah.
So yeah,
All right.
so Romero can actually talk about the
Yeah.
strategy of
Ramiro,
sales.
curious to hear your thoughts then. Just like, different markets and retail opportunities. Is it just, for
Mm.
advertising? Is it actually generate revenue on top of it? I'm just curious to hear about this because, one thing I always hear in the bag community is I wish I could try this bag out, in person.
Yeah.
And retail allows that, but I'm sure there's some challenges as well. What's the Alpaca strategy with retail?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question. Definitely seeing more of a trend. I think just in general in the world going a little bit more offline and analog. Uh, DTC and direct to consumer online is it's not going to go away. But I think having that strategy alone is I think brands that only do that might struggle to grow a little bit more. So, we're growing our distributor network to for people, these are products that people want to feel and touch and see and try on and stuff like that. So we're actually doing a pop-up in LA 10 days from now, actually,
Very
something like
cool.
that at 12, yeah, 10 days from now. So we our strategy is like, yes, we have distributors. We want to be in the big box and, small shops and stuff like that. But we also want to run pop-ups ourselves so we can bring the community to, be part of what we do as a brand. So we're going to be, I think, going around the world and doing a little bit more of that, maybe opening a few more stores. We have one retail store that we own in Australia, in Melbourne, and then I think our distributor opened one in Japan and, Jakarta and Singapore.
Do you have one in Kuala Lumpur Airport, or is that a
The
retail
distributor,
Okay,
it's called, what's it called? A kiosk. I think it's a kiosk. I don't think it's a full store. Yeah, it's just
got
a
it,
kiosk.
got it. So for the pop-ups from here, how does that work? Like, do you just get like a 3-month lease somewhere, and then, or like, how long does a pop-up usually last for?
Yeah, this one, we do it for less. So just to kind of get the people for like a short time, test the waters. We did one in Melbourne and we're doing one here with the intention of opening a store and being more permanent. So this was gonna last 3 weeks. It's during the summer, people are traveling, the World Cup is on. So hopefully, there's a lot of people but the strategy is to do something new in the pop-up, give them something special that's only available in that space, run events and all this kind of thing to bring
Got
people
it, got
together.
it. So by the time this podcast is actually live, it should be well before the pop-up pops up. Where in LA will that be opening?
That's gonna be in Venice, so in Los Angeles, so Venice, in Albuquerque, and yeah, running from the 3rd of July till the 19th.
Awesome.
So
If anyone's
in
listening to this,
Albuquerque, you'll see a big backpack, and that'll be
yeah.
us. Yeah,
Well, if anyone's
that's
listening to this
the
and they're in
sign.
the LA area in that time, be sure to check that out. I just wanted to go back then, Jin, to owning the supply chain in house, and so we talked about how it was MagLockz started the whole thing, and then you ended up owning your own factory, and now we're got Axoflux in the mix as well. How did that become a part of this?
Um, so Axoflux or the Axo line is our own internal fabric name.
Mm.
So one of the issue, as you encounter in your own business is getting fabrics, right? There's a lot of generic fabrics on sort of like, in the market, but the thing is the quality may not be where you want to be. But the thing with getting like fabric from South Korea is they're very expensive, So like for example, ask about fabric that you have that costs like $8 or $9. The same fabric, if I was to manufacture myself, may only cost like $4. And the $5 difference may not matter much, but if you use 400,000, 500,000 yards per year, that really the cost really adds up, And also because you're dealing with custom, you're dealing with payment terms, all that, adds to the complication of using externally sourced fabric. For example, we use X-Pack, and in order to make our X-Pack line a part of the staple, we have to keep like $1 million of product on hand at any given time, $1 million US, and that's cash, right? And sometimes you keep for 2-3 years, you don't use that, right? Then it's like you have to keep $1 million of cash on hand that you can't really use for anything else other than
Yeah.
that, right? So the actual thing was to really for us to control the supply chain, speed up the development process of new fabrics, and also ensure that the quality controls is within the spec that we want, without accessing really the more expensive mill in South Korea or Taiwan. So yeah, so it's almost the same thing as what we did with MagLockz, is to take Apple's kind of idea of owning their supply chain and to control everything, and to scale using that control, right?
Ramiro, how has the response been to the different Axo fabrics with the community?
It's been pretty good. I think in the beginning, we sold a lot of X-Pack, and there's a lot of X-Pack fans that we have. We're still doing X-Pack, but people they grown to like the fabric, and it's been pretty good. So Axoflux, basically the Axo line, that's a more like standard one, and that's the one that we do the most and sells the most actually, more than X-Pack now. So X-Pack, we're trying to do more like limited runs of that one. also it comes from the US and it's a little bit more complicated to get and all that stuff. But yeah, we're still doing everything. Axoflux is doing pretty good.
With Axoflux, we're very thankful here at Nomadization. You guys send us all the new gear and we get to test it out. And I've seen the Axo, go through lots of evolutions in terms of, small changes here and there. Is the goal to eventually sort of solidify, 3 or 4 different variations of Axo? Or is it just going to kind of just be always innovating and testing out new styles? What's the future of Axo, Jin? I'm curious.
So basically, I think 50-50. So one is that we're gonna have a core sort of like pro line of fabric that we're always gonna have. Then maybe another 50% is that we're constantly evolving because we recently launched Ultradyne, which is ultra high molecular weight polyethylene laminated fabric. There's a lot of new fabric that's coming on market, and we want to experiment because we do like the background that me and Romero have is I came from chemical engineering, a bachelor degree, and Romero did biotech. The eventual thing for Alpaka is to actually learn the technology to turn CO2 into actual fabric. That's the big goal for Alpaka, is actually to own the entire supply chain, not just the fabric, but the actual sourcing of that material and where it came from the very start. So yeah, so it's like almost like a tech play for us in terms of that Axo kind of project.
Now for the new fabric, Jin, it's Ultradyne, you call it?
Yes.
Is that considered a part of the Axo family, or is that its own thing?
It's the own thing. We're still testing a lot of stuff that's on the fabric. That's why we haven't really launched. I mean, we've been developing this for like 2 years already, and the fabric's been ready for like a year, but we're just gradually releasing to the market to test. We've been doing a lot of internal testing, which is fine, but the market test is actually the real piece of the game, right? People need to want to buy it and want to use it, and using the feedback that customer gave us, we evolved the fabric a lot more. Yes.
Yeah, like I said, the Axo has gone through quite an evolution in itself, and it's always cool because, like, it's just I have such an obsession with fabrics, and it's one of my favorite parts about the bag game. So seeing you guys being able to do it in house and just the advantage that it gives you in terms of supply chain and speed, and then being able to even lower your costs, because I've always been so impressed by Alpaka's price points. You guys really try to hone in on a bit more of an accessible price point, which I think has been a big contribution to your success as well. So it's just been cool to watch you guys do this. I know you guys are busy dudes. We're gonna wrap this up soon. I just wanted to say thanks so much for jumping on. Ramiro, before we jump off, was there anything you guys want to plug? Any new bags that are coming? You got the pop-up store coming soon. Anything else Alpaka fans can get excited about?
Yeah. We're doing a bigger travel backpack. It's actually coming out. I think it's this next week. Actually, so I'm not sure this will be out by then, but we got a bigger travel bag, and we're looking, like you said, with the fabrics and stuff. We're looking at applying the fabrics to different types of I guess verticals or use cases for those specific bags. At the moment, we're testing, we're launching, same products, but eventually we might use one fabric for like one thing. Yeah, I'm just a little hint. We're doing something very soon. So second half of this year, which is starting. We're starting in 7 days. There's gonna be some pretty cool stuff coming.
Very exciting. Guys, I appreciate your time. If you all are still watching this or listening to this, thank you for your time listening to Nomads Nation. If you have any questions, be sure to let us know in the comments below. And we'll see you guys next time. Ramiro, Jin, thank you so much for jumping on.
Thanks, Aaron.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.